Right now, on to the point. Changes coming to California restaurants.
I hope that it raises awareness.
The new law proposed by a 9-year-old requiring food allergens to be listed on menus. The state's budget battle is heating up. Senate Republicans lay out their demands as a multi-billion-dollar deficit looms. The NASCAR community mourning the death of one of its drivers and his family after a fiery plane crash. And in our Champions of Hope, a local Sacramento family farm is giving back, turning fresh eggs into food and hope for kids who need it most. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Alex Bell. We do start with some breaking news in the Brown University shooting. The man suspected in that shooting has now been found dead in a New Hampshire storage facility. The suspect allegedly killed 2 students and wounded several others on Saturday. Investigators believe the man is responsible for both the shooting at Brown and the killing of an MIT professor who was fatally shot in his home on Monday night, although authorities have not formally confirmed a connection. Meanwhile, the community is trying to heal, mourning the 2 students killed and also the countless others who are now changed forever.
I can feel the warmth of the whole Brown community and all the people who cares about the Brown community and the people who died.
The information about a possible connection between the 2 shootings was developed within the past 24 hours, according to sources who said detectives working on both cases compared notes. The menu at popular chain restaurants are going to look a little bit different as we get into next year. We first reported on this bill back in April when a 9-year-old little girl went to the Capitol to advocate for it. Since then, the bill passed nearly unanimously and the governor signed it into law. ABC 10's Becca Habegger circled back with that little girl to see how she's feeling about it now.
Yeah, Alex, we first reported on this bill back in April. It is when that 9-year-old girl went to the Capitol. This was the first of its kind law in the entire nation. And so we circled back to see how she's feeling given her role in this new law.
I hope that it raises awareness.
9-year-old Addie Lau and her mom Robin Lau say trying to eat at a restaurant with Addie having multiple potentially life-threatening allergies is difficult.
When you go to restaurants, we try to communicate with the staff and tell them about our allergies, ask what each meal contains. Oftentimes, we don't get a lot of good information. It's, let me go check, back and forth. 20 minutes later, you're still not sure if the information is correct.
Yeah, it was really hard to eat out.
They teamed up with Senator Carolyn Menjivar, who also has severe allergies, on Senate Bill 68, also known as the Allergen Disclosure for Dining Experiences, or ADDIE Act. It requires restaurants with at least 20 locations nationally to disclose the top 9 allergens alongside each dish on their menu. Those are milk, eggs, fish, crustacean shellfish, tree nuts, wheat, peanuts, soybeans, and sesame.
My name is Leo Taco and I support this bill.
Back in April, Addie and her 3rd grade classmates spoke at a news conference and Senate committee hearing in favor of the bill. Senators also heard from the California Restaurant Association and nonprofit Food Allergy Research and Education, which opposed Senate Bill 68.
This bill requires on-menu printing. We have a vastly dynamic supply chain network. And this bill, we believe, takes a static approach.
Menus cannot capture allergen risks introduced to sourcing, manufacturing, or even cross-contact during kitchen prep. As written, the bill would create a false sense of security for food allergy families.
Since then, amendments to the bill allow restaurants to either print the allergens on the menu or have it available in digital format, like a QR code. Still, the California Restaurant Association has said listing allergens for each dish will add a burden to restaurants. Robin says she believes this change could help restaurants.
Our hope is that by improving the allergen information at restaurants, people like us will dine out more.
The ADDIE Act passed with overwhelming bipartisan support, unanimously in the Senate and with only 1 no vote in the Assembly. Governor Gavin Newsom signed it into law on October 13th, much to Addie's delight.
So that night, we had a dance party, and the day after that, I had a party in my classroom with apple cider.
Now, the bill might be controversial, but one thing is not. Addie is adorable.
She is so sweet, so poised, and what a great experience to advocate for legislation on behalf of her health and other people like her who have allergies. So very impressive young girl.
Now, Becca, I do want to ask you, because there are some exemptions to some restaurants. Give us a little bit more of the details on that.
Yeah, so this law does not apply to restaurants with fewer than 20 locations nationwide. It also doesn't apply to smaller restaurants like food trucks or food vendors at farmers markets, right? Smaller operations. So we're talking about chain restaurants with 20 or more locations nationwide. But, Addie and her mom are still hoping that the culture changes with restaurants, much like we expect more or less now to kind of walk into a restaurant and see the calories listed. That has become more common. They're hoping that even restaurants not required to list allergens will do so. And they hope, as you saw in the story, that restaurants will see perhaps more families like theirs coming in and impacting positively their business, bringing more business to those restaurants. So anyhow, this goes into effect July 1st, but we have other new laws going into effect January 1st. And we want to tell you about those. And streaming now on the ABC 10 streaming app, we break down California's newest laws in 2026 and how they impact you. You can stream the special right now on our free ABC 10 app.
All right, Becca, thank you. When the California legislature resumes session in January, the clock will start ticking to finalize a budget for the 2026-2027 fiscal year. The Legislative Analyst Office predicts a budget shortfall of almost $18 billion. Today, Senate Republicans announced their priorities, among other goals like wildfire prevention, water storage, and reducing costs for renters. Senate Republicans are again pushing for full funding of Proposition 36, the increase in penalties for repeat offenders in drug and theft crimes, for which nearly 70% of Californians voted in favor of. Republican State Senator Roger Nilo, vice chair of the Senate Budget Committee, emphasizes his party's budget demands are often ignored as they are the minority.
The final budget really ends up being a product put together by the governor, the president pro tem, and the speaker. And we have absolutely no input into that at all.
Scott Graves with the nonpartisan California Budget and Policy Center, which analyzes statewide fiscal decisions, says that's just the reality of California, where the governor and leaders of both legislative houses are Democrats.
Our state's constitution does not require the majority party to negotiate with the minority party when putting together a budget.
In response, H.D. Palmer with the California Department of Finance says the governor has finalized his decision for the budget, which will be announced soon, and that decisions will start once again when the legislature reconvenes. All right, the state of California's newly drawn congressional maps is still in the hands of a panel of judges. The 3-day federal court hearing, which we've been covering, wrapped up yesterday. Again, this is against Proposition 50. The plaintiffs requested a decision by this Friday, December 19th, tomorrow. That's the first major date in the state's candidate filing period for the 2026 election. The lawsuit was filed by the California Republican Party and joined by the U.S. Department of Justice. California Republicans argue the new maps are unconstitutional and violate the Voting Rights Act by using race as a factor in drawing district boundaries. Regardless of the ruling, the case is expected to be appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court. The Democratic National Committee will not release its report on the 2024 presidential election. Officials with the DNC say releasing the so-called autopsy of the race could create divisions within the party. The findings were based on hundreds of interviews with people in all 50 states. The report identified problems with resource management and other concerns regarding Vice President Kamala Harris's unsuccessful bid against then-candidate Donald Trump. Still ahead on To the Point, wages are up, inflation is slowing, but rising everyday costs are still squeezing wallets. What the latest jobs report says about where the economy is headed. And then Northern California is facing a mid-December snow drought, while skiers are still hitting the slopes anyway.
And not likely for much longer. We've got a lot of rain on the way to the valley and several feet of snow in the high country. We'll talk about that after the break.
But first, another headlines tonight. Retired NASCAR driver Greg Biffle and his family are among the 7 people killed in a plane crash in North Carolina. Authorities say the private Cessna aircraft crashed while landing at Statesville Regional Airport, which is used by NASCAR teams and Fortune 500 companies. 55-year-old Biffle won more than 50 races across NASCAR's 3 circuits. President Trump signs an executive order fast-tracking the reclassification of marijuana and moving it out of the same category as heroin and toward Schedule 3. The move does not legalize decriminalize cannabis, but it clears the way for FDA research into medical uses, especially for chronic pain. The White House calls it common sense while keeping recreational marijuana illegal. And more photos from Jeffrey Epstein's estate were released today. The images have fueled political intrigue in recent weeks about who may have been associated with the late convicted sex offender. Democrats have chosen which photos to release since the panel received more than 95,000 images from the estate last week. Welcome back in. Active weather is coming to Northern California as the Sierra Nevada is experiencing what experts call a snow drought. A much lower than average snowfall is impacting ski resorts already open. State climatologists say higher than average temperatures at high elevations resulted in more precipitation coming down as rain rather than snow. Still, that didn't keep many people from traveling to Boreal Ski Resort to ski or snowboard down the slopes that are open, and many of them surprised to see how the conditions are for mid-December.
I did not expect it to be this hot. I layered up probably 4 layers and I had to take off about 2 or 3. So
we're considering other options, but we realized that there was no snow in Tahoe. So yeah, I just think Boreal was the best pick. There's enough snow for a good run.
And experts remain hopeful that we'll catch up given it's early in the season and we are expecting storms over the next few weeks. But speaking of some storms moving in, let's get things over to meteorologist Brendan Minchef because you are tracking a weather impact alert.
Yeah, that's right. Sunday through Thursday. So basically all of Christmas week. Obviously, this does include Christmas and Christmas Eve. Heavy rain and then some heavy snow as well. The bigger snow is going to hold off until late Monday into Tuesday. We're going to be looking at some very difficult travel. We're going to talk more about that in just a minute. But today we made it into those mid to upper 50s. And right now we're in the low to mid 50s in the Valley, 53 Sacramento, 54 in Stockton, 53 Modesto, 47 in Jackson, 45 in Truckee, and 48 in Tahoe. We'll start off at about 40 in Tahoe on Friday morning. Across the valley, cool with some clouds. We're going to be in those 40s to about 50 degrees. So I say cool, but definitely not the 30s and 40s that we saw much of last week. Now, tomorrow afternoon, we're going to see some scattered showers, but this is not the big rain event. This is just some passing showers. 56 in Sacramento, 56 in Elk Grove, 57 Stockton, 55 in Modesto, 50s in the foothills, 40s up in the high country, and rain up near Tahoe as well. So here's Futurecast, and by tomorrow morning, some showers up along the north coast, the coastal range, north of Interstate 80. Not a whole lot out there at first. As we go through the afternoon, though, some heavier rain across the Sierra. Snow levels should fall to about 8,500 feet or so. So that snow is still going to be above the pass level, but some of the higher peaks might see just a touch of some snow there. It's not going to be a lot, though. Some light showers through the valley, maybe a little wet for that evening commute. But again, this is not the main event. We'll see a little bit of a drying trend overnight Friday into Saturday before the next round comes in later on Saturday. And this is the start of that heavier rain. And you can kind of see that plume there indicating this is an atmospheric river event. So some heavier rain moves in on Sunday. This could be some very heavy rain for areas that are right under the center of that atmospheric river. This model is kind of shifting it a little bit further to the north, but this is going to go back and forth until we get to the day of this storm. So a lot of rain to come. We're going to continue to see some rain on Monday. Again, this model's shifting everything up further north than where it's been. A lot of the models keep this atmospheric river centered right over the capital region. It's not until we get to Tuesday, though, again, that we're really going to start to be talking about that snow. So a couple of weather impact alerts. The first one Sunday through Tuesday, heavy valley rain totaling 2 to 4 inches, high snow levels until Tuesday. Then we'll see 1 to roughly 2 feet at pass level. Wednesday, Thursday, the rain continues, but this is going to be a heavier snow event with another 2 to 4 feet of snow expected on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. So as we look at that rainfall forecast over the next 7 days in the valley, it's 4 to 7 inches of rain. Multiple days in a row coming up with that weather impact alert that continues through Christmas Day.
A major and controversial move on Capitol Hill. House lawmakers pass a bill that would criminalize gender-affirming care for transgender minors with prison time for doctors. And if you use Instacart, you may be owed some money. The company is ordered to pay millions in refunds over deceptive practices, what it means for shoppers. Well, in the midst of a winter holiday season, America has an affordability problem. And the latest jobs report from Tuesday shows things might not be getting much better. Although new federal data found inflation unexpectedly cooled in November, people are still feeling the pinch of high prices. Reporter Lee Waldman explains what this means for everyday households.
This week's November jobs report revealed Americans got a raise over the past year. Wages are up about 3.5%, but many people just aren't feeling it.
People just don't feel as confident as they used to, which is sort of a scary place for an economy.
Although Thursday's Consumer Price Index shows the rate of inflation actually slowed in November to 2.7%, that reading may be incomplete due to a disruption in data collection during the shutdown, and there still isn't a lot of wiggle room in people's wallets.
Things that we spend on a regular basis, whether we're eating out at restaurants, filling up our gas tank, paying for our monthly energy bill, it sort of wipes away the income gain.
Moreover, growth in wages isn't hitting all earners equally, according to data from Bank of America. Households with higher incomes saw 4% bumps in pay, while middle and low income households were just 2.3% and 1.4%, respectively. Economist Jadrian Wooten says inflation impacts how pay gains are felt.
Wealthy Americans don't spend a lot of their income on groceries, but low-income Americans who are spending a larger percentage of their income on groceries, if that goes up by 2%, that takes up a much larger increase in their income.
With softening labor markets, sinking wage growth, and prices still on the rise, the 2026 outlook for the economy remains uncertain.
We're seeing mixed signals, and sort of the optimism out of that is that it is possible that the inflation rate continues to come down, that the unemployment rate does sort of level off and start coming back down.
Grocery delivery company Instacart is ordered to pay $60 million in refunds. The Federal Trade Commission made the announcement just today. The FTC accused the company of false advertising and harming shoppers. The company also agreed to stop what the FTC called deceptive practices. Previously, Instacart offered customers a free trial, but failed to disclose the company would charge them to have their groceries delivered. Instacart also offered a 100% satisfaction guarantee. The offer implied customers would receive a full refund, but instead, Instacart only offered a small credit towards another grocery delivery. House lawmakers passed a bill yesterday criminalizing gender-affirming care for transgender minors. Now, the proposal could send doctors to prison for up to 10 years for providing certain treatments, including surgeries or puberty blockers. Civil rights groups call the plan the most extreme anti-trans bill ever considered by Congress. Supporters say the proposal would protect children. Health officials supporting the change say the use of puberty blockers and surgeries for minors is, quote, malpractice.
These procedures fail to meet professionally recognized standards of care. Medical professionals or entities providing sex-rejecting procedures to children are out of compliance with these standards of health care.
Today, the GOP-controlled House passed a bill that would block Medicaid funds from being used for gender identity care to minors. Professional medical groups don't recommend surgery for children as part of gender treatment, and research shows surgeries are rare for teenagers. After the break, our Champions of Hope, a Sacramento family farm, is feeding its community, turning fresh eggs into snacks and support for kids in need. Tonight in our Champions of Hope, we introduce you to a family who is helping feed families right here in Sacramento that are in need.
Initially, just started as wanting to give back.
Dwayne and Edison's eggery began with just a handful of hens in a backyard and has grown into a thriving family farm right here in Sacramento.
So the pasture raised and the freshness of the eggs is really what makes an incredible difference. Just the chickens have the ability to do whatever they want all day. They're out eating bugs, screaming at the wind, they're having a great chicken life.
The eggery is named after Joe's two boys. But what started as a small family venture of raising animals and teaching the next generation grew into something much bigger. The family has now founded a community program called Neighbor's Nest, a way to bring food to people right here in their own community.
Just to take some of our own profits and purchase shelf-stable snacks for local children who are from really food-insecure families.
Joe says about 20% of their own profits goes back into the Neighbor's Nest program. So far, they've donated things like granola bars, fruit snacks, and pretzels, with a focus on items that don't require refrigeration and are easily able to be stored and distributed. Joe says they try to get snacks that kids love but don't usually have access to through traditional food programs.
can really make a difference to have something you love when you come home after a bad day or something like that. Just doing what feels right. You know, the world has changed so much, and it can be easy for people to forget at the end of the day, we're all just a community. So we're just doing it for the children in our community.
And there are several ways that you can buy eggs from the eggery, or if you do want to donate to them. So for more information, you can head to DwayneEdisonEggery.com, and we do have some information up on our website. As always, thank you so much for watching and for always inviting us into your home. If there's something you think we should be looking into, you can always email me and the team at tothepoint@abc10.com. Have a great night. We'll see you next time. And don't forget, you can download our free ABC 10 Plus TV streaming app to catch up on any shows or stories that you might have missed.